Yo, how many of you guys want to get freaking shredded, like clinically, legally shredded, but you just like can't freaking take it at the end of the diet? Sometimes calories get really, really low, cardio gets really, really high, and you're like, literally, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm here to tell you that dieting does not have to be all that hard. You shouldn't have to absolutely drive yourself into the ground in order to get a decent bit of fat off. And this is truly the key to longevity in continuing to improve your physique, because the cycle that a lot of people run into is they decide to go into a diet, they lose a cute little 5 to 10 pounds, and you get to the point where you're like kind of lean and you're like confident for the couple of weeks that you hold that physique. But then once you recover out of it and then you start to bring your calories back up, you maybe want to push a little bit more food, push a little bit more weight, then you end up right back where you started, or you end up gaining a little bit more weight. So you always end up in this cycle of only really liking your physique for about 5 weeks, because we never actually get to that place where we are lean enough that we can potentiate a ton of growth on the other side, but also we allow space to actually put on weight to make those improvements in our physique. So this is how we broke the cycle with Cynthia, and also how we were able to get her absolutely freaking peeled without having to run her into the ground. That being said, she has had a 35-pound transformation, and I want to show you guys the biometrics here. Freaking insane. So she's been with me for a hot minute, but she's just been steadily losing weight the whole time. So first weigh-in with me was 150 pounds. And her, during this recomp, where we are just focusing on nailing down training execution, food quality, optimizing her intake. Because when she came in, she wasn't really tracking all that consistently. Hang on, let's see if we can go all the way back here. So if you see like here, kind of not really doing what we needed to do, right? So we needed to really clean up what was going on here. And as soon as we got some consistency out of this, as soon as we started putting some oomph behind her intensity, her body started responding. And that's where we started to see everything start to drop off. So we started at 150, and then we started the diet officially around like 135 pounds. That being said, before you go into a dieting phase with me, or with any coach at Beyond Built, the very, very first thing that we're going to look at is consistency and adherence. Because if we can't trust you to be super consistent, bar none, with a ton of food, not a ton of cardio, just hitting your step goal, there is no way that you're going to be consistent when we take away more food, when we add more onto your plate, because that's just more stressors onto your plate, right? If we're not actually regulating, if we're not creating time for you to get everything in, you're not going to have the time or the mental space to prep all of your meals or spend extra time on your cardio machine. So that's the number one thing that we focused on up until this point. And the number one thing that I told her was just give me 10% more. Just give me 10% more. I'm not asking you to reinvent the wheel. I'm not asking you to be spot on perfect every single week. And by shifting the mindset of I have to be perfect to I just need to give 10% more, it allowed her to get closer and closer every single week and allowed her body to respond in this manner. So the way that we structured her deficit and what allowed her to get this lean is we did this in 2 parts. And again, this is the issue that most people run into. They're like, oh, I'm just going to diet, and it's just one straight shot, right? Of just, I'm going to push harder and harder and harder until you get to the end, and then you're burnt out, and then you have to recover, and then we rebound and we repeat the whole cycle, right? That's not what we wanted to do, because she had done this so many times before we started working together this time around. So what we did is we started the diet around July 31st. So look, she'd already been losing all that fat. So it was like right around here-ish, around 135. And we dieted straight for about 17 weeks. We had a couple of like staggered days in here, but because we spent so much time working up her calories, getting her consistent in this recomp phase, now she got to start her deficit at, let's find July, at like almost 2,000-ish calories. So she was around, 2,000 here. Yeah, right there. Cool. So 2001, that was like 1900, 1965. So that's about where we started it at. And starting from there versus where she came in at, so at this like 1500-ish, 800 on some days where she would just like get really super busy at work and not end up eating 1400, 1500. Then we would have some days that it would go over. By standardizing, hang on, please hold, Jerry is moving. Okay. By standardizing this, it allowed us to diet her on so much more food than what she came in at, and allowed us more runway in this initial dieting phase. So in doing this, we were able to get her body to be more responsive so that we could make smaller adjustments. So you'll notice that we kicked it off with like not that big of an adjustment. So like here, 5 fat, 10 carb, we added in some cardio, and then we started dropping by like little movements, and her body continued to respond. Some days we hit it with a little bit of a deeper one, or a bit of a deeper cut in her macros, or a bit of a steeper increase in her cardio, but we just kept on in that manner, kept responding to what her body was doing, and we continued to drop weight, even though, as you guys were seeing, some weeks I didn't have to make any adjustments to her protocol, and she just continued to move in a positive direction. So we continued, see, no adjustments because she hit a 124.6. Her body was just doing the thing because she did all the prep work on the front end to make this diet so seamless. Then at around week 17, which is right around January up in here, we were able to pull her out of this dig that we pulled her into. It was around 1,400 calories. We only pushed that hard for this little dig that you see here. That's not what we started her at. That's not something that we needed to do for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. It was, your biofeedback is showing that you're tired. We're getting a little bit hungrier. We're getting a little bit more food focused. So what we're going to do is we are going to give your body a break. We're going to give your metabolism a break, and we're going to help you recover from your diet, because half of dieting is stress and fatigue management. And this is exactly what it allowed us to do. So pulled her up into this diet break, and we took her to around estimated maintenance. Your estimated maintenance is going to drop as you continue to go through your diet, because your metabolism gets downregulated. You have less body fat to move around, so you are expending less calories. So that's why we brought her up from around that 1,400 calorie mark to around 1,750. And we also significantly cut back on her cardio. And during this time, she pretty much maintained her weight. So she came up a little bit just from having more carbs in her system, because carbs do hold water. A gram of glycogen can hold 2 to 3-ish grams of water, and that can fluctuate. So she did come up just a little bit that first week. We saw her drop back down during that second week. Her progress photos started to look better. She looked tighter, which is exactly what we want to see. We want to see the muscles start to fill out. We want to see her biofeedback start to improve so that she starts to feel even better. Sorry, that's Jerry's tail. So that she's actually adequately recovering from that diet. And mind you, she was hella consistent pretty much this whole time during her holidays, so that when we went back into this dieting phase in February, after her January diet break, she was ready. She was ready to be consistent, and she had taught herself that she could still enjoy all of the holiday and family things without having it to revolve around food. So she learned a lot about herself in this process too. So after this 5-week diet break, we extended it because her body was just continuing to do the thing, and she actually just continued to drop weight pretty much the whole time, which is exciting. And then we were able to start the deficit from this 1,750 calories, which is kind of hitting the reset button. And this is how you earn the longevity in your diet. You are not just continually driving your body into the ground until you break and you can't do it anymore. You are hitting the reset button. We gave her body a 5-week break. We hit the reset button on her metabolism. And now we were able to go back into the diet where we took away a chunk because we were ready to get back into it. But she was dieting on more calories than she was before we did the diet break. So now her body is steadily and linearly dropping weight on less cardio, on more food, and we got so much more out of the diet. So starting at 135, we were able to end the diet at 116, 117 pounds, which was really, really, really cool to see. I will show you guys her progress photos from when she started. these are her first ever starting photos of the program, which is crazy. So went through her body recomp, and this is where we started our deficit at, was right here. So this was her check-in before she started her deficit. We dieted, and then this is where we pulled for the diet break, was here. And like that would have been a really awesome spot to end the diet at, right? Like she was lean, she had lines, she felt comfortable, awesome. And again, this is the issue that people run into, is they stop here. Because had she stopped here, we started reverse dieting, adding food back in, she probably would have ended up back around like here, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you really, really, really want to change your physique for the rest of your life and be at a place where you can have lines year round, even when you're growing, that you can really eat more food than you ever have before at a leaner body composition, you've got to get leaner than you think you need to in order to potentiate that, in order to just focus on improving your physique for the rest of your life. So instead of going back and just saying like, hey, this is cute, this is cool, we're done, I was like, no, I'm going to push you, and we are going to change your physique for the rest of your life. So this is how her body responded throughout the diet break. As you can see, lines are still popping, her muscle bellies are filling out, she looks healthier, she feels greater, and then we're heading back into the deficit here. So you can see that we're tightening up. This is a really nice check-in. Tightening up, tightening up. Her body is just responding so gorgeously. And boom, this was around her last check-in of her deficit. And that's where we were able to start adding food back in. This is also where I pulled her for a call. And I was like, yo, dude, like you've done the freaking work. We've gotten so lean, down to 115 pounds, starting at 135 from this deficit. So a total of 35 pounds lost in the entire transformation here. But your work doesn't end here, because if you just go off and do whatever you want right now, you will rebound. Your body will try and go back to its happy settling point that it was at, and it will fight like hell to get there, right? So we need to really establish this new settling point and give you the tools that you need to succeed, because reverse dieting hunger is harder than dieting hunger, in my opinion. So I was like, hey, I need another 8 to 12 weeks of this level of diligence from you, and you will have a different physique than you've ever had in your entire life. So started this reverse at around 115, 116 pounds, starting at around 1,400-ish calories, and I think it was 4 sessions of 40 minutes of cardio. Let's see, right here. Yep, so 4 sessions, 40 minutes of cardio. She was continuing to trend down, and that's where we were able to start reverse dieting her. So I would walk down cardio by about 5-ish minutes. I would increase food by, her body responds better to smaller adjustments, so I would increase food by 100-ish calories and see how her body would respond through the week. Initially, her body was just soaking up the food, and I was able to continue to push it pretty much every week. Sometimes it was every other week, but you can see how the end of her photo, or the end of her diet, you kind of just look like small, a little flat, not the best, right? Like not our best physique. Your best physique is actually going to be a couple of weeks after the diet, once we start adding food back in. So we start adding food back in, she starts to look fuller. Her muscles start to fill out. She starts to look stronger, right? And we start to see new lines coming in. Her midsection lines are holding. Look at those glutes. They're looking so full. And now she is officially 12 weeks post-diet. She's up at averaging, because I have her staggering her days. She's averaging around 1,900-ish calories, and she's chilling around 117, 118 pounds. So that is how you are able to ultimately change your physique for the rest of your life and actually get freaking lean. You can't just continue driving your body into the ground. Sometimes what you need to do, and the best thing that you can do, is to pull back before you push forward. Remember that a healthy body is a hot body, and we need to make sure that it is responsive, it is well fed, and it is able to sustain the kind of change that you want to make. So next time you want to diet, instead of doing it in one straight shot, I recommend taking a non-linear approach, because you will feel better, you'll probably look better, and you don't have to die in order to get super lean.